Hey, Philosophy and BIM here. In this video, I'm going to talk about the 5 different ways of creating forms, whether they are solid or void. I have a family template already open. You can find creating forms under the Create tab. There are 5 different ways, as I said. They are Extrusion, Blend, Revolve, Sweep, and Swept Blend. Whenever you're starting a new geometry, you want to make sure that you are in the current view that you're set on creating the form. For example, I'm currently in the reference level, which is the floor plan. So in this case, if I'm creating extrusion, I'm basically creating an extrusion extruded from my floor plan. The same way that goes for other geometries or other forms of creating geometries. To continue to create a solid extrusion, once I click on the extrusion icon, I'm in the sketch mode. So in this case, I'm going to be using a circle to simply join a circle here. And I'll make that as a foot here. Remember, anytime you're in the sketch mode, any line work that you draw has to be completely enclosed. And you cannot actually have overlapping lines, such as things like this. Or having a line running across like that. When you try to hit finish, Revit will tell you that you have overlapping lines and you won't be able to complete the form. So in this case, make sure that you have just a single line or a continuous loop when it comes to your sketch. Okay, now that I have a circle here, I'm going to go ahead and finish it. Let's go to the 3D view and take a look. For the extrusion, it's pretty straightforward. You can either adjust the height by pulling that setup shake handle, or you can either type in the number here to override the value. Let's continue to move on to the next one. I'm going back to the floor plan reference level. I'm going to be using Blend. Blend is again very straightforward. You are creating two shape of the profile, and it will blend together. In this case, your blend form is always going to be the linear direction. So let's look at it together. I'm going to start off with a circle again. In this case, I'm drawing the base of the shape of the blend form. So that means that in 3D view, you can see that my circle is actually on the ground. Now that I'm done, I'm going to move on to the top shape. I'm going to be using a circle again. I'm just going to draw a smaller circle, about 9 inches in diameter. In the 3D view, let's go ahead and finish it. And you'll see that in 3D view, it forms a blend shape. Just like the extrusion, in order to control the height, you can either use your mouse to hold on to the shape handle, or you can simply punch in the number here under the properties. Of course, you can now change your dimension for your base profile or your top profile. Just like that. Pretty simple and straightforward. Okay, I'm going to go back to the reference level and talk about the next one. The next one is Revolve or Revolution. This one is also pretty straightforward. In order to create a shape, I'm going to go to the front elevation. Go ahead and change the scale here. Clicking the Revolve command, I'm about to create a column. So in that case, I'm going to be using the rectangular shape. I'm drawing half of the shape here. And I can, in this case, I'm going to make some slightly adjustment. I'm going to use the trim to make sure that my line work is cleaned up and don't have anything overlapping. I'm going to be using the access line to define the center axis of the shape. So in 3D view, you'll see that it looks something like this. So the Revolve is going to be doing a 360 rotation to form the shape. Remember, this axis line has to be either on this edge or has to be away from the sketch. You won't be able to place it inside the sketch like this. When you try to finish it, again, Revit is going to tell you that this is not allowed. So I'm going to go ahead and move that to the edge of the profile and finished it. So let's take a look in 3D. Again, you'll see that now I'm able to create like a column shape here. You also have to set up the shape handle to control the height. This time, under the properties, you won't be able to control the height here like the other two. Instead, you actually have a angle parameter here, value. By default, this is a 360 rotation, but you can change it to something like 180, for example, if you want half of that, or you want a quarter of that, you can change it to 90 degree, something like that. So this one again is pretty straightforward. Okay, moving on, the next one is the sweep. Sweep in this case is you are drawing a path. It could be more than one actually linear line, or it could be curved. And once you define the path, you have to draw the shape of the profile, and the shape of the profile is going to sweep along that path. So let's take a look. I'm in floor plan again. Once you started using sweep, you have two ways to choose your path. Either you sketch it or pick path. I'm going to be using the sketch path for the moment, and just going to use the line tool. As you can see that the second I'm drawing this path here, there is a red dot here. I'm going to show you what it looks like in 3D. So I'm going to be drawing probably like a path like this. Let's take a look in 3D view. The red dot is to tell you that that's where your profile is going to be sweeping along. And that red dot is just the insertion point or the origin of the profile. So once I'm done with the path, I'm going to go ahead and finish it. I have to draw the shape of the profile now. In this case, I'm going to be using the default setting just by sketching. I'm going to select the edit profile here. I'm going to be using a circle again. In this case, you can draw it in the view in 3D or the view that is perpendicular to this path. That means that it's going to be my right elevation. You'll see that the dot, that's where the origin of the profile is. So in this case, I'm going to be using a circle again. I'm going to mark my center of my circle on the red dot. I'm going to do a foot, 12" for my radius. And let's go back to the 3D view and finish it there. Same concept here. When I draw my profile has to be completely enclosed and won't have any overlapping lines. Let's go ahead and finish the profile. In order to finish the sweep, I have to click the check mark again. And there you have it. The nice thing about the sweep is that you can have as many as or the path that you want, as long as your profile is not too big to sweep along the path. You'll be able to create the shape. There'll be times where some of the limitation is when you have, for example, let me go ahead and make changes to the circle. If this circle is too big, let's just kind of bump it up like 5 feet diameter. Revit will tell you that you can't create a sweep. That's because the shape is too big to sweep on the second segment. So there'll be times there'll be some limitations, so be aware of that. But otherwise, the sweep is actually pretty powerful. I should have some other videos in the future to talk about how I would use sweep for family creation. So I'm going to go back and change that back to a foot and finished it. Okay, let's go back to the floor plan. The last but not least is the swept blend. Basically, swept blend is the combination of the sweep and the blend. It's a nice way to create that form, but the limitation for the swept blend is you can only have one path. Not like the sweep, you can have multiple paths, the segments. And also you'll be able to have two forms of a blend and create a swept blend object. So let's take a look. I'm going to be using swept blend, using sketch path. Again, you can only do one path, so let's take a look. Let's do a curve first. Let's do arc, kind of like that. If I were to try to do one more path, like so, and try to finish it, again, Revit will tell you that you can't have more than one. So I'm gonna have to dial back and delete this path here, and let's finish it. The second thing is I'm gonna have to draw two shapes of the profile on both ends, one over here and one over here. I'm gonna start with the profile one and edit profile. In this case, profile one is on the left side here. I'm going to stay on my 3D view to draw my circle. Once I'm done, I can finish it, move on to the profile number 2, and click Edit Profile. I'm going to be using a circle again, only a smaller circle this time, like that, and finished it. Just like sweep, I have to click the check mark one more time in order to finish the form. Just like that. So let's go back to the plan view, like so. So as you can see here, each of the form creation has its own advantage and disadvantage or limitation. As a beginner, you'll be using Extrusion to create a lot of families. As you progress, you'll be using other ways such as blend, revolution, sweep, or swept blend. Okay? Let's talk about void for a little bit. Void is essentially the negative form. You can use void to cut out any solid to create a more interesting form. So let's take a quick look here. I'm going to be using the void extrusion, using the circle command again. I can create like a negative form and finish it. Let's take a look. And that's where I can use the void to cut out the solid. Just like any other form creation for the solid, void for extrusion, you can either use the shape handle to control the height, or just type in the value under the properties. You can use as many as void to also cut out a solid. There are times there's some limitation, and I'll probably talk about that more in the future videos. Void is actually very useful as well in family creation, and I'll be able to talk about more tips and tricks down in the future videos as well. That's all I have for this video. Stay tuned for the next one. I hope you like it and you learned something from here. See you next time. Bye.